This is the Striving Butterfly podcast. Episode 1. Who am I? Hello, my name's Coleen and welcome to my podcast, The Striving Butterfly. In this episode, we are going to explore who am I? Let me tell you my story. But before we go into it, go grab yourself a cuppa or something nice. Go find a nice sweet spot on the couch, or if you're on the tube or some transport, crank the volume up in your ears. Get cozy. I need you to be cozy. But also, not only that, you may want to grab yourself a notepad so you can take notes along the way. I'm going to be sharing my story with you, but I very much want you to pour what you need to onto paper at the times that you need to. Here we go. Because if you listened to the introduction, then you know this is not easy for me. I am so nervous. I'm in my office, set myself up to do this, and the nerves might get the better of me. So bear with me as we go down this journey. I'm a 42-year-old mother, daughter, sister, auntie, cousin, niece, partner, professional marketer, whoop whoop, manager, and teacher. Some would say, natural born leader as well. And the bossy boots. I have a beautiful 20-year-old daughter, and I'm a dog mum to a small Chalky, which is a cross between a Yorkshire Terrier and a Chihuahua. So he definitely has small man syndrome. He has a huge personality. I'm also a godmother to 4. Bella, Kellen, Jordan, and Nevaeh. Love them all so dynamically different. I won't go into detail, but I come from a big but small family, meaning there is a lot of us from both of my parents' side. However, I'm not in regular contact with all of them. So it's more of my immediate family who I talk to all the time. My mother is my all, and I've recently reconnected with my father. Not that we disconnected, but just wasn't as close. Both my parents come from Jamaica, whoop whoop, and have resided in the UK from a child. So I am born and bred here, but my parents are born and bred Jamaican. If life was different and I was reading this back to you, I would have also been saying I'm a mother of 3 with 3 baby daddies. Whoa. How? Well, I had a stillborn when I was 14 years old. His name was Shy. I gave birth to him at 25 weeks. I can still clearly see the events of the day, but I will go into that a little more into detail later on. Then in 1997, I had a consented abortion at St. George's Hospital. Like, whoa. I made a lot of big girl decisions at such a young, fragile age. Those 2 losses, and then having my daughter still fairly young, has truly shaped who I am. In a nutshell, my mum would call me a hard face cookie. Also a workaholic, always looking for more, always looking for the best, always looking to do the best, always trying to prove I'm more than the events of my past, even when people didn't know the events of my past, always trying to prove to myself. They definitely gave me the drive to not fail, be dependent, and not have it shape my story. When you build that behavior unconsciously and then live it for so many years, it becomes ingrained and extremely hard to change the cycle and the pattern. Only a handful of people before releasing this podcast knew this about me. I've never really opened up. I've never really owned my past because I've always felt somewhat embarrassed, ashamed, and feared rejection and insult. I already felt I disappointed my parents from the age of 14. And I was so naive. Like, I remember I tried to ignore the fact that I was pregnant and was thinking, I'm going to wing this. How are you going to wing this? If I look at it now and I think about it now, it's like, how are you going to wing this, Coleen? Like, seriously. The act took place. We don't need to go into detail. And then I remember missing my period and thinking, yeah, that's normal. Yeah. And then my body started to change. But I ignored it because I thought, yeah, maybe I'm just growing naturally because I'm, at that age. I remember eating, it was like a whole can of beans, 4 slices of bread, and a tin of corned beef. That was my go-to. I love, but yeah, I was so naive. No one knew. I kept it a secret. And then I think I was in the bathroom one day, in the bath, fluttering about, and me, my mum, my sister and my dad, we're all very chilled family, open door policy. You could be having a bath and someone comes in and uses the toilet or washes their hand. It's nothing. We're family. So I remember I was laying in the bath, the green enamel bath, and my sister just bores through the door. And I must have been laying flat but watching my belly. And I think I was getting some movement and some kicks. And my sister's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm having a bath. And she's like, what are you doing, fam? And I think I innocently told her, and I was like, don't tell mum. And my sister is super close to my mum. They were like besties. So I remember getting out of the bath and she was like, you're going to have to tell mum, And I was like, yeah, I will. I wasn't going to, but she was like, you're going to have to tell mum. And then mum's going to have to tell dad. I was like, oh my gosh. In the end, I didn't actually get a chance to tell my mum because my sister went in my mum's room and told her flat out, Colleen's pregnant. I think she's pregnant. I was like, oh my gosh, here it goes. My mum most probably just went into mother mode and she was like, okay, is it true? Yes, it's true. I think I haven't done a test, but my body's changing. And she was like, show me your stomach. And I showed my mum my stomach and she could see that, yeah, it was larger than size. And she wasn't mad or angry. She was just in shock. And it was the shock of the non-anger that I was like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? I remember her going downstairs, and before she went downstairs, she was like, we've got to go to the doctors. We've got to get to the doctors tomorrow, and we've got to check out how far gone you are. Because, you know, you're at school. And I don't think we could get an appointment in the doctors because, you know, it's always hard to get a doctor's appointment. So I remember we ended up going to one hospital and they were like, we can't help her, she's too young. We ended up going somewhere else, my poor mum. And then I remember going up to Tottenham Court Road. I can't remember the place, sexual health place. They were the only place that would look after underage girls and teen pregnancies. And they did a test and I literally hit the cusp of 6 months pregnant. And if you know, if you're 6 months, you can't have a termination. I literally must have been like a week over. And I remember my mum trying to find all the options. And literally there weren't really any because it was too far. So I remember she was annoyed and frustrated, but at the same time, she wanted to remain calm. And, you know, I look back and I think back of it, and I'm doing this now. And gosh, she's an amazing woman. Just the strength to be calm. I most probably would have lost it on Kyla. Actually, I wouldn't have. But her whole demeanour of just being a parent, yeah, she was extremely supportive. She most probably felt let down and what did I do to deserve this? How did my daughter get to this? But if you're listening, Mum, it was never your fault. Never. You didn't do anything. This was all me. And I'm speaking to you guys, and I've never spoken to my mum about this, which is why if she did listen, she would know. So yeah, after finding out that there's nothing we can do and I need to proceed with the pregnancy, we had to get into the doctors, find out, get all the information, what are the next steps, blah, de, blah, de, blah. And I remember after finding out we couldn't do anything, my mum had to tell my dad. Whoa. Now, I can't remember all of my dad reactions, but I was daddy's girl. So it was a punch in my stomach when I had to walk down the stairs and he asked me, is it true? Coleen? Yes, Dad. And that's all I remember saying. Yes, Dad. And he couldn't really say anything much more to me. And it's just feeling I've just turned my whole household upside down in a flash. So we continued as a family. I continued to carry baby, went to school as normal. My mum informed the school, and yeah, we had to put matters into place of just being careful and watchful. Not everybody knew at school, but you know, because the head teacher knows and mum's come into school, something must be going in. We had to tell the dad had to get his mum and his parents involved. So it was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. And then things didn't get back to normal. Things just continued. So I can't remember much of that just secondary school was normal, going through studies as normal. And then I remember sitting in office studies upstairs at school, and I got this enormous cramp. Like, it was agonizing. But because things were secret, I was like, it must be fine. My best friend at the time, she knew, and she was like, "You all right?" I was like, yeah, I just got a bit of pain, and was like, oh, maybe baby growth, or, baby must be growing, and because you're young. And this is me and her just, whispering in the session, because you're young, maybe, you're really small and everything's small, so the baby doesn't really have much room. But it was an agonizing, shooting pain. And I ignored it and went about the rest of my school day. And then after school, I went home, wrote my mum a note and told her I was going to my friend's house. And then I remember walking up to my friend's house, and literally we must have got off the bus. So we got off the bus, and then we started walking, and I literally, my body, stomach just curled up, and I got to a point where I couldn't move. It felt like a contraction. It felt wrong. I didn't know what was going on. It just felt like I'm in so much pain. This was the pain that I felt earlier on in the day, but this is so much worse. So much worse. So my friend at the time, she literally was trying to carry me and she couldn't. She was like, "I've got to call your mum." And I can't remember how far. I think we got to the next payphone. Those times mobiles weren't about. Got to the next payphone, and she's like, called my mum, and she was like, "Oh, can't move Coleen. She's in so much pain." I can't remember those events of what happened in between. I just remember my mum and my dad going into overdrive and getting me to St. George's Hospital. I went into emergency, straight up to the baby ward. They hit the machines on my stomach. Dad had to be called as well. The Shy's dad and family had to be called, to be told when the machine's on me. I'm looking to the side at the machine, and they're like, "We can't hear a pulse." And it was just like a pin dropped. The whole room was silent. From a disappointed dad to, "Oh my gosh, this is pain I didn't want to experience." To see the pain on my daughter's face, the pain on my mother's face. So no one wanted a teen pregnancy, but a loss on top of the teen pregnancy was something in itself. Because we had already experienced a loss in the family. I had an older brother before me and my sister was born, and he had a tragic passing. Another podcast, another episode. Too much for this one. I'm trying to hold it together. So 2 girls, and then your youngest daughter's going to have a boy child. We've already lost one. To then find out that we've lost this one, it must have been a very hard hitting spot for them, as well as hard hitting for me and my sister. So we're still there, and they're like, "Okay, so we can't hear a pulse. Baby's too far. We can't cut you. You're going to have to give a natural birth. You're going to have a natural birth." So it's like, oh my gosh. They dosed me all the way up. I remember being in and out. And these are the times when you could have 2 people in the room. So I remember my mum and dad was in the room, and then it was a bit too gruesome. So my dad left the room, and it was just my mum. I remember her holding my hand and just supporting me all the way. She was there. She didn't leave my side. And I gave birth to a boy, beautiful baby boy, 4th of May, named Shy. Yeah. And I recovered. I came round after all the drugs were out of my system. And they said, do you want to see him? Do you want to hold him? And I was like, yeah, I do. So I was able to hold him and see him and talk to him and have alone time. I remember saying a little prayer, and it was like so close yet so far, this little human's face. I remember the dad and his family coming in, and it was also emotional, it was also surreal, it was also silent and still. You're in a manic hospital and there's so much noise, but at the time it just felt like there was no noise and everything had gone into slow motion. And you know what? It was like that day happened and then boom, next day happened. I was out of the hospital. My mum took care of everything, all the paperwork, what happens next. I remember them talking to me and telling me what happens next, but my mum dealt with it all, managed it all, took care of it all. We're going to have a funeral, we're going to rest the baby, etc., etc. And then I came out of hospital and I wanted to go back to school, and my mum and the head teacher came round, and my head of year came round to see me, to talk to me, see if I was okay, you know. My friends came round, only a couple, maybe 2 of them came round to see me, make sure I was okay. And then I wanted to go back to school because I literally sort of was like, yep, got to get back to normal now. Got to act like nothing happened. Those who didn't know, didn't know. And my mum was like, you're going to have to be off school. My mum and the head of year decided I'll be off school for about 4 weeks. And then I'll go back because just rushing back may be too much for me. So took a month off school. My best friend at the time brought my work home, and I was still doing work, and she would come and pick it up and then drop it back. And it was like I slowly just erased it from my mind. I'd keep something in the calendar. I had pictures. So we took pictures, and I noticed myself deliberately just trying to eradicate it from my mind. And my mum was like, you need to talk about it. You need to process it. I wouldn't talk to her, wouldn't talk to my dad. I wasn't talking to anyone about it. Didn't share any feelings, any emotions, nothing. I've always been such a quiet child. Was a bookworm, used to read a lot, stay in my room, watch a bit of TV, read, draw, write. So when something like this takes place and you're already quiet, you close down even more. So my mum was like, you got to go to a counsellor and you got to talk about your feelings. So I went to a counsellor, went in the room, the dark room. We were sitting talking. I can't even remember the conversation. I just remember coming out of the room and telling my mum, I'm not going back. Don't take me back. I'm not going back there. I'm not talking to the woman. And she didn't take me back. So I internally processed it, which is why I say when you build up that pattern of secrecy and hardness and sternness, it's very hard to let people in, and it's very hard to share because you've built this pattern up and you've built this behaviour up since the age of 14. So I process it in my own way, and I don't even know how I process it. I maybe just removed it from my mind, just removed it. So it happened, but it didn't happen. Move on. Next. So gone back to school, gone back to normal life. Everyone was concerned about me, but I was a tomboy. So very quickly, easily went back into the flow of normal school life, normal friendships. Got a few side eyes, but hard face. Just rolled off the side of my shoulder, kept it moving. So I already disappointed my parents at 14. So when I fell pregnant again, and it happened with a guy that was twice my age, unplanned, before even getting through university, I knew this is not my story. This is not who I am meant to be. And people will be like, didn't you learn? What are you doing? 1, twice your age. 2, no contraception. Like, what are you doing? Yeah, I call myself an idiot as well. Straight. But as you get older, you also learn that, and you also see that you didn't deal with your first issue. So that's still lurking in the background. That's still breeding bad behavior of grief. You're still grieving without even realizing, because you haven't dealt with it. Yeah, you may have brushed it off your shoulder, but you haven't actually sat down and walked it through and stepped it all out and tried to actually understand the pain points. Have the screams of ah, to the tears of I can't believe this happened, to the silence. Like, I didn't go through the 7 stages. I just boom, closed the box. Boom, that's it, done. So then a few years after that, and it was more than a few years, my parents separated. There's a part of me that blamed myself, because of the shame and destruction I brought to the family. As a part of it, I know wasn't, but you still question, was it you? I know it wasn't, but you still question it. So my parents recently separated. My sister had moved out and had her own little flat, not even close by. And then I end up dating someone twice my age. And I knew it was wrong. Knew it was wrong. It just felt like, oh, this is all right. Again, as you get older, you look back and you think, that was not right. That was so not right. Not only did I lie about my age at the time, but also, what are you doing? He literally, look, I was a girl that didn't want for anything. But I also knew this wasn't the life that I wanted forever and ever and ever. Because there was so much I wanted to do. And when someone is so much older than you, it's just not going to balance itself out. A few years, yeah. But when someone's already experienced life, has had a family, had been married, like you had not even got there. I had none of that. None of the experience. It was like, what are you doing? So when I fell pregnant, I was on contraception, but I think I got sick. So if you know, if you get sick and you vomit and you're on contraception, it just doesn't mean anything, because it's just like that day didn't count because everything that you took, just you vomited back up. So your poster still had added protection. Guess I didn't. So yeah, fell pregnant again. And I knew instantly. I literally was in a cab on my way to meet him. And I had to literally tell the cab driver, can you pull over? I need to vomit. soon as I vomited, I knew. And I'm not a vomity person. Well, later on in life, had a few cocktails and a few drinks and mixing. Yeah, I've vomited, I've needed to. But in general, I'm not someone who's very sicky. So when I vomited at the time, I was like, yep, something's going down and it's not right. So I'm going straight to find out what's going on. And that's exactly what I did. I found out I was pregnant. I was still very, very early. Must have been like not even 8 weeks. I was super early. I was like, yep, sorry. I spoke with the dad, who would have been the dad at the time. And I was like, I want to go university. I want to see life and do life. I do not want a child at this age. I've got so much more things I want to do. Like, you're already older than me, and yeah, you would love it, but our dynamics would change and I won't be able to do everything that I want to. He understood. So I got a date. I got a date to have an abortion, and I can relate to all those that have had it, because boy, it's not nice. It was absolutely horrible. The entire process, from getting up super early in the morning, not being able to eat, being driven to the hospital, knowing exactly what you're going to do, sitting in the waiting room, waiting for your name to be called, getting all scrubbed up, ready to go under. You're then laying, you then get called. They do the normal, what's your name, what's your date of birth? You go through to somebody else, and things may have changed over the years. They ask you a set of questions, just want to confirm that you're making the right decision, want to confirm that this decision is your own and that it hasn't been at force, blah, and you understand what's going to take place. Actually, I was quite far, because I must have been, thinking about it now, I must have been past 8 weeks, because I think when you're up to 8 weeks, you can take the tablet. Anyone can correct me, I'm sure you will. But I was past that stage. I had to go under. So, yeah, I went under. And I remember, countdown from 10. All I remember is 10, 9, 8, 7. And then I wake up a little bit disorientated, listening to the trolley moving through the aisles. And I could hear girls, women crying on either side of me. And then people having conversations on the other side. And then the nurse, and the nurse flings back the curtain and you just shoo. Just got to give you a check. So fast. It was like, the nurses did try and support, but soon as I said, yeah, I'm okay, it was like, yep, great, and you can be discharged. Do you have someone waiting in the waiting room? I was like, yes, I do. Okay. Well, in about an hour, you can get yourself ready, and then you can go out, and then you can go home, and then you have to rest for the rest of the day, and blah, 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 blah. So it felt like I was an item that I bought from a shop, pushed myself on the conveyor belt, waiting to be scanned, and then packed, boom, on my way home. And then when I got back, I went to his house, because didn't tell my parents, didn't tell my mum. I literally just closed the curtains, and it must be about, this happened super early, so I feel like I got back about midday, 1 o'clock. It was so quick. Midday, 1 o'clock, and just stayed in bed for the rest of the day. And then when I felt a little bit more up, I was like, yeah, I'm going to need to go home. All in a day. It was mentally and physically draining. So, sister, if you've gone through this before, know that you're not alone. There's some of us that don't really tell anyone that we're going to have an abortion, and there's some things we don't want to share, and we just go do it by ourselves, and it's a lot. So I virtually wrap my arms around you because I hear you, I feel you, I know exactly what it's like. So, you know, having 2 massive events so young in my life, you know, I put my drive and my focus into becoming more than a label. I wanted my career and my accolades and my education and everything I was doing to speak for itself. I wanted to be an expert. At the beginning, I wanted to be a fashion journalist. And then I studied it and was like, nope, this is not for me. And then I came out of studying and said I wanted to do marketing. And I put my whole heart, love, drive, everything into knowing and being one of the best employers that you could have in your organization. I have always gone above and beyond because I wanted to be able for my experience, my knowledge to speak for itself. So the mistakes that I had made, they didn't be the trump card for me. It was, well, girl, you can do this, and this. And you know this, and this. So the stories of the past doesn't present themselves in the future because I've just made so much of myself that I didn't need to speak on it. I wanted to be that daughter that was able to look after her parents after I made so much of a mess of when I was younger. It was like, when I get older, I'm going to be looking after my parents and they're going to be proud of me. But I got to say, if I did not go through what I did, I may not be who I am now. And I've just told you about 2 events, 2 massive events. There are so many of us who has experienced loss, whether by choice or not. The decision, which was ours or not, has shaped who we are today. Sometimes we don't take a moment to pause and grieve over the loss. We quickly move on to the next thing, ignore it. If you're like me, an extremely private person, then you internally process the grief, which I've learned is extremely dangerous and is one of the reasons of why I'm here doing this podcast. We've allowed our own thoughts and opinions to make decisions to suit our current state, and that's not healthy. Due to my losses and the issues I refuse to address, I can own now I've ruined so many relationships. Not actually deliberately, but looking back now, I think I've been a root cause of many of my relationships. And you know what? If any of my exes are listening to this, you did play a part. Just letting you know, you did. But I am also owning that I made some mistakes too. So I won't let you take full blame. I have made some mistakes too. Yeah, I own that. Yeah, I was someone who always had my guard up. I was always trying to protect myself. I never wanted to be hurt. So as soon as I saw a red flag, I was gone. I have a very sharp tongue. Like, it is a blade. And I can also act very blatantly like I don't care. I have been able to switch off and detach like it's nothing. It's most probably why I'm still unmarried, unengaged, because it has taken a while for me to get to know who I am and what it is I want. It's taken me so long to bring my guard down and learn how to be vulnerable. Looking back, the experience I've had with men I've seen or been in a relationship with, I won't say I've dated because I've never really done that. Single parent life doesn't really allow for you to go out on dates every weekend or whenever you want, because you got to arrange childcare and you got responsibilities. And unless you've got a real good setup, you can't be like, hey, can you look after whilst I'll go on another date? I can imagine the side eye from my network, like, what, you ain't got Pitney to look after? Well, you won't go on date again. So I never used to ask anyway. Now, I'm so much more prepared. So if I ever go down that road of becoming someone's wife, even though it's something I never really desired until I gave my life to Christ, and you talk and been in other relationships and you learn certain things, I think I'm now at the age where I actually want to. I want to do it. I may have gone off track a little bit, but let me continue with who I am. This is the fun part. This is the part that, I tell everyone. A successful, God-fearing businesswoman. This is the part where, all the past no one knows, and then they only see the future part. The future part is I'm very active at church. Love my church. I gave my life to Christ 12, 13 years ago. Haven't looked back since. How did I end up going back to church after so long? Yeah, maybe I'll do that as the next podcast, because boy, I've been stung before. So I had to chase after the Lord because it was only him that was going to take me out of where I was. And amen to that, because he has worked miracles on me. It's only God. Why I'm sitting here and being able to talk to you guys, it is only God, and we give thanks for that. But yeah, outside of me attending church, I am an absolute workaholic. I work within the payments industry. I'm a digital marketer. I have been doing that for well over, most probably 17, 18 years I've been doing it. So I don't need to give the name of the organization. No, I'm not doing that. So I work for a large organization doing digital marketing. And then outside of that, I've got my own business where I consult with marketing, build websites. I love it. And I have a little baby that I birthed during the pandemic where I sell digital stationery. So I built like a digital planner and also brand personalized products. So I'm always got a branded mug, cup, t-shirt, something that I have developed. So yeah, I do a fair bit outside of just being a mum and active at church. And you most probably will notice that it's one of those things I've constantly done and got in the rhythm. I'm just a bit of a workaholic, and I have absolutely struggled to find balance because I feel like I'm always striving to be better, always running from the past bits of where I don't want it to catch up with me. But I've learned. I've done a lot of work on myself, a lot of time with the Lord, a lot of reflection, a And I've learned to appreciate my network, my family and my friends. I've learned to enjoy life. Enjoy life with my daughter. We have amazing times. Enjoy life with my family, what I can, when I can, and being present. So enjoying life and being present, like two different things. I can enjoy life and do life all on my own. But when I'm at my mum's, before, I've got a laptop and I'm doing things, but I've purposely learned, and I don't always get it right, to switch off and be present in the moment. So whoever I'm with, be present. Because you know what? You never know what tomorrow holds. You never know what you're going to learn. You never know what you're going to see. So the last couple of years has been absolutely a shift for me. And it's been such a positive shift. If you know me, you most probably can see on social media that shift. It's like I wasn't completely, my light wasn't dim, but you can all of a sudden see real bright light around me. And that has taken a lot. So again, I'm not being boastful, but where I've come from, where I am now, is a lot. And I'm proud of who I've become. And I want other women, men who have gone through a lot of grief, who have not even gone through a lot of grief, who've gone through grief through full stop. And it could be from relationship, it could be from family members, it could be from friendships. It's a loss and you grieve it, whatever it is. I want you to know that there is life, love and opportunity on the other side. So as a poet said, and I love this quote, who I really am keeps surprising me. I've learnt that every day I wake up, I just want to give thanks. That one, I've got to see a new day, but two, I have an opportunity of starting all over again and correcting my mistakes. Being able to apologize, being able to own, being able to have fun, and being able to travel, being able to support and love. So you've learned a little bit about me. There's a downloadable sheet that you can get from the links. And I want you to take a moment to tell me a bit about you. And you don't have to share it with me. You may want to just share it with yourself. If you do want to share it with me, you can always email us. And not only can you share, but if you've got a topic, if you've got a question, if you want to chat, anything, hit me up. You can get me on all the social channels as well. And until next time, which will be most probably in a fortnight, I want you to hit that Control, Alt, Delete. Control yourself, alter your thinking, and delete your past mistakes. Girl, you're going to own your truth. You're going to believe and learn that this process and this journey you're on is going to work in your favor. You've been listening to The Striving Butterfly, hosted by Coleen Myers.